Commission meeting will come to order. And the first on the agenda will be the roll call. Marla?
Commissioner Bittner,
Here.
Commissioner Conley,
Here.
Commissioner Jarrett,
Here.
Commissioner Munson,
Here.
Commissioner Rich,
Here.
Commissioner Small,
Here.
Commissioner Streifel. Here. Vice Chair Patrick,
Here.
and Chairman Dennis Agnew. He was going to be online. We have a quorum.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the January 26th minutes. Commissioner Streifel?
I have some changes
14th?
if you don't mind.
Yeah, 14th.
I have some changes that I would like to suggest to the minutes. There's just kind of some name word salad going on here. So where it says Commissioner Jarrett, it should be Bittner, nominated Dale Patrick. And it says seconded by Commissioner Streifel, that should be Connolly. And then where it says Commissioner Bittner, nominated Commissioner Agnew, that should say Commissioner Jarrett. And it was seconded by Streifel. And then, yeah, so Risch was the second on the vice chair, right, Commissioner Risch?
Could be.
And then further down on the page, John, it's not John, it's Robert Fields. And
It's not an S.
oh, it's not plural, there's just one of them. Okay.
Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? Marley, did you get all those?
No, but I was going to ask, see if I could borrow her notes.
Okay. Any further comments?
Vice Commissioner Patrick, I just wanted to say I am online. I just wasn't a panelist when we took roll call, so mark me present.
All right, welcome. Okay, we have a motion to approve the changes in the minutes as changed, amended.
I'll move we approve the minutes with the suggested changes.
Second? Seconded by Mr. Commissioner Jarrett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those are approved. We'll move into the second item on our agenda, which is the public comments restricted to Burley County residents and landowners. Does anybody want to make a comment in front of the commission? Anybody want to approach the lectern and make any comments?
Want to tell them this isn't the public hearing?
Please sign your name and tell us tell us your name when you approach the lectern.
My name is Tammy Anderson.
Would you sign in also?
I have testified or given my input, I guess, at past full commission meetings, so I'm here today because of what I saw the discussion included was at the last meeting. I'm not really sure what's changed since then, so I guess I'll just give my input based on that meeting.
Ask her if she's commenting on the public hearing. I think she is.
What's that?
I think this is for a public hearing.
Well, I don't know. Is this for a public hearing?
Well, whatever was, I saw on
Are you,
Facebook.
this is just for general comments?
Okay.
So if you're here to speak on a public hearing, you would speak during the public hearing?
Yep.
Oh, no, I'm just, are you not going over zoning stuff?
Okay.
Yep, that's a public
Base-
hearing, and it's.
So that's not tonight,
Yes, it's tonight.
Yep.
It's just
Okay.
later.
later, so I should wait.
Yes.
Okay, well, you said public comment, so what do I know?
That's okay.
Thank you. I'll come back.
Anybody else want to make any comments? Any other comments? Last call. Anybody else want to approach the lectern and make comments about? All right, we'll move on then to consent agenda. Mitch, the All-American Subdivision?
Okay, yeah, there's 4 items on the consent agenda. 2 of them, the 4.2 and 4.3, are lot combinations. The 4.1 and 4.5 are actual separate plats. So you can consent to approve all four of that, or for the public hearing, or we can go through each one. Or do you want to pull one, or approve three, it doesn't matter. They're fairly simple, straightforward plats, so.
Okay, what does the commission wish to do?
Well, it probably makes sense just to move all four of them and have a public hearing and discuss it then.
You want to make that a motion?
I'll make that a motion. We approve them all for a public hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Munson. Any further discussion? No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm opposed. Okay, they'll be moved on to the public hearing at our next meeting.
Yep. Item 5.1 is public hearing for Coomer Ranch subdivision. This is a public hearing for Patrick and Gail Legenfelter. They want to separate or create a single lot of 5-acre subdivision out of the property that contains 40 acres. The location of the property is at 8305 Pleasant View Road. The site map is in your packet. It is located in where did I have the? Oh, I forget the township. Apple Creek,
Apple
sorry, yeah. So they are okay with it. They're going to keep it zoned ag, as the rest of it is, even though it's 5 acres, but that's fine. They requested to apply for a stormwater management plan and a waiver, a paving waiver. Regulation, the applications fulfilled the requirements, Article 33. The zoning for property is ag, and that is not up to this board. It's Apple Creek jurisdiction for the zoning. They applied for a stormwater management waiver, a paving waiver. We have sent all out to reviewing entities. The subdivision meets the Article 33. So the request is to approve the final plat or recommend approval to the county commission for the final plat. I stand for any questions.
Any questions from Mitch? Mitch, I just have a question. You said the stormwater management plan waiver has been applied for?
Yeah, they applied for it, and it'll be fine.
But it's not been approved yet?
It has not been approved, but it could be part of your recommendation for approval is to have all conditions met before the county commission approves.
Any further questions from any of the commissioners?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Streifel?
I see the staff had concerns of the floodplains and adjoining floodway on the west side of the property. Was
Wrong
that resolved,
plat,
or-
sorry, that's the first one, All-American.
Oh, okay. All right.
This has no
Okay.
floodplains on the property.
There's no further questions from Mitch. We'll open the public hearing. Anybody that wants to speak on the Coomer subdivision or ranch final subdivision, approach the lectern and sign the sheet and state your name. Anybody wants to come up and speak to the public hearing on the Coomer subdivision? Second call. Third call. Anybody want to step forward and speak? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And at this point, any discussion from the commission? Any discussion? Commissioner Risch?
Mr. Chairman, staff findings said the petitioner will apply for a stormwater waiver and a paving waiver. Should we make that a condition of our approval, that they actually get those waivers?
You could? If that's what you wish to do, then that would be part of the motion, if there was a motion to move this forward to the county commission.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the plat with conditions, as long as the conditions are met, and send a due pass recommendation to the Burley County Commission.
We have a second over here from Mr. Conley, Commissioner Conley. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Final call. Any further discussion? All right, let's move to a vote. Roll call vote. Marla?
I just want to make sure I got the motion right. Is it approved with conditions?
The paving waiver and the stormwater
Okay.
management waiver, as long as those are met.
Okay. All right, yes vote means you approve, no vote means you do not. Chairman Agnew,
Yes.
Commissioner Streifel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bittner,
Yes.
Commissioner Small,
Yes.
Commissioner Conley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Jarrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Patrick,
Yes?
Commissioner Munson,
Yep.
all approved.
Okay, that motion passed. We'll move on then to the next item on our agenda, which is the review of some of the staff reports related to some of the zoning comparisons. So Mitch?
Yeah, item 5.2 in your packets on page 20 is an introduction to these staff reports. I think we overloaded you guys last month with differing ordinances. So I broke it down to, we're gonna start with the residential districts, floodplain and agriculture.
Mitch, may I ask?
Yes,
may I ask a
Commissioner
question
Jarrett.
Real quick. Just for clarification, so I understand. Was this ever on the consent agenda,
No,
the zoning?
no. We continued this public hearing from
Yeah,
last month.
but before, because I in the normal process, that everything goes on a consent agenda, and then it goes to a
No.
public hearing? No? Okay.
The idea is, on March 1st, the city of Bismarck will be transitioning 4,529 parcels to our jurisdiction. This area contains 95% of the population, approximately 12 to 14,000 people. We don't really know exactly how many people are in that area, but it's somewhere between 12 and 14,000. Because of the jurisdictional transfer, consideration for this area is to this area only, is to consider superseding the Bismarck zoning ordinance with new ordinance for the 8 districts listed below. Or we can leave the city of Bismarck's ordinances in the place, we can adopt those as is, or we can do nothing.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, go ahead.
So can we add a number 3 on there? Mitch, you can call it do nothing, or we could call it move the transition parcels under the current Burley County zoning ordinances and grandfather in existing properties that may be out of compliance because of the previous city jurisdiction? Or just call it nothing?
That might be a kind of a zoning, a very big question for zoning. I actually ought to have over 4,500 properties grandfathered in. We would have to keep track of each one of these properties and anything in the future. That's like,
So when we, just for a further question if I can, was Burley County Planning and Zoning was established in 1972, right?
yep,
And there was two of the current commissioners that are here tonight were actually part of that original commission? Am I correct in that?
2014.
In 2014?
2014.
In 2014.
1972, though.
Was that when the original planning of Burley County Planning Department was established?
No. Burley County Planning and Zoning was established sometime later.
In 2014?
Right. Previous
Okay.
years was always, the city of Bismarck was under mutual agreement to do the county planning and zoning.
Okay, so I'm just trying to,
Right. And that's
educate
simply why
myself.
the current zoning ordinances for the city and the county are remarkably similar because of that.
okay,
So there's really not much of a difference.
okay. So when we originally merged, when Burley County Planning and Zoning went on their own away from the city, how were the properties handled at that point? Did we just move the properties into Burley County? Burley
I understand
County?
what you're asking. Let me clarify that. That's real clear. The properties that we're talking about have been under the city jurisdiction since 70s.
77.
77, 79, somewhere in there. So when we created the Burley County Planning and Zoning, it had nothing to do with that because that was inside the ETA. So the ETA has been the city's zoning since 77. So now the question is, are we going to move the zoning ordinances from the city into the counties or not? And I would suggest probably not. Simply because there's no problem. We're adding a lot of other things, that's just my opinion, that simply aren't going to change anything. The notion of grandfathering or anything else is almost a moot point. I think everybody is pretty comfortable with the way things are, whether it's under the city or the county in general. You know, nobody's in here saying that, well, we got to have instead of rural residential or rural single family, then we got to have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other rural residential type of things. That seems ridiculous. And so, I don't know if that cleared it up for you, but the change over to Burley County Planning and Zoning had to do with areas outside of the ETA at the time. So now we're moving, that line is moving back under a lot of these properties, and that's why we're having the conversation. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Yeah, Vice Chair, if I might.
Yes.
Mitch, is it correct in saying that we do have a timeline on this? It's March. We need to have something in place. If we're going to put something in place by March 1st, is that correct?
Well, at this point, no, it would be an impossibility. It's too many things that need to be public hearing, and they have to wait 30 days. They have to be posted on site for 30 days if anybody wants to appeal them, and if there's an appeal process, that goes through the county commission. So at this point, no.
Okay, so as of March 1st, it would be there would be the transition, and that would mean that those properties are going to function under what is currently in the county ordinance, correct?
That's what we're trying to determine.
But there would be a gap where that's going to happen anyway.
Well, unless we follow what they have existing and adopt that just for this area only, of the ETA only, then we follow that until we come up with something new.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bitter.
See, I'm kind of looking forward to what the citizens have to say about this, is really my goal. And it seems like we're trying to make things more complex than they need to be. We don't have, we don't have heavy commercial, we have very little industrial that's under the county, like say out at Minokan, we've got some industrial, but other than that, it's just basically land. And I haven't heard of any plans for additional commercial or industrial that would cause us any concern outside of our zoning ordinances, because we already have ordinances that allowed for those uses as needed.
Are you suggesting that we should narrow these classes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have, for example, if you're only looking at rural residential or residential in general, basically under the county we have 3. We got RR, R1, and R2. And while I'm not real clear on the difference between rural single family, rural single family, rural single family, we already have 3. I'm just saying. But over on the city side, we got, R10 two-family residential, R5 single-family residential, RM multifamily residential, RM10 multifamily residential, RM15 multifamily residential, RR rural single-family residential, and RR5 rural single-family. It seems like we're just needlessly complicating things. That's just my thoughts, so.
Well, and to add to that, we're at the city going through a rewrite of Title 14. And those designations are likely to change by the end of the year, this year, or even mid-year. So those codes might even change a bit. So some of the stuff I've seen. Yeah, it's kind of a moving target as far as how we'll adjust between the two jurisdictions. Just something for somebody to be aware of. So some of these, it might not be as complicated on that side either.
Any other comments?
If I could add, I just want to point out that there's obviously quite a few people in the audience that are here for a real good reason. They took time out of their day. So I'd like to kind of move forward with the public hearing and get the input from the citizens.
All right. Any further comments from the commission before we move to the public hearing? Okay, hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Those that want to speak to the issue on zoning districts, step up, sign your name, and state your name.
Well, I brought my own piece of paper with my name on it because usually it's a total failure when I come to a county meeting because you never have a piece of paper. And I left a dad joke on the back just to lighten it. So, how many veterans are on this commission? So 2. I served on a nuclear submarine when I was 17 years old, which is more than most can say they've ever done. And I know, and I was on a flagship. I was on the Hyman G. Rickover. And I got there because I had the highest test scores in the fleet at the time. And when I was serving, I did not think that we would be here ever trying to control how people build a home. If you live out in the county, how many commissioners know the square footage of an acre? Oh, I know you do. 43,650. But, yeah. But you look at it, that's a pretty big piece of dirt. And where I live, I have 16 acres. Why do I need your permission to build something on over 700,000 square feet of dirt? If I don't need a bank loan, you should have no input. The only way it affects anybody is if you defraud the bank by building something bad and they can't return their investment. A lot of places, if you don't get a loan, you don't need a permit. Here, we're trying to control every damn thing. I guarantee I can afford to build a house without getting a loan, so why do I need you? What are you protecting anybody from? You aren't protecting my neighbor. On a 700,000 square foot piece of dirt, I'm not affecting anybody. But yet we're pretending all these things have validity. And the more I thought about these issues, and Brian's got a big piece of property out on Apple Creek too. Is he affecting anybody if he decides to put up another garage? No. Could he build one without getting a bank loan? Pretty sure he can. So at that point, really, why don't we break this down to reality where if you're not affecting other human beings, this is all a pack of BS. I bought 20 acres in West Texas, and the main reason is there's no zoning allowed on that development. The county stepped back, and it was sold outright developed. But the county has no zoning jurisdiction. I could either haul a camper down there, or I could build a mansion there. It's up to me. It's my dirt. I do what I want with it. Same thing, I bought 2 lots in Holbrook, Arizona. But I can do anything I want on those lots because they can't be zoned. You know, you try to think people want to move to Bismarck, and then we want to be tyrants and control everything they do, clear down to how many chickens they can have. We've fought that at the city level. I mean, my God, if you have 43,000 square feet plus, does it matter how many chickens you have roaming around your yard? I mean, at some point, we have to go, what are we actually accomplishing here? And I sit on the city planning and zoning.
I was just going to ask you that.
And you've heard me argue there for people's rights. Because everybody, I mean, we argued about a gas station on 80th because a woman thought if she left her chainsaw sitting in the middle of her lawn, somebody would steal it. Well, number one, I don't know why you'd be mowing your lawn with a chainsaw. And it was going to draw prostitutes and pedophiles and all kinds of things. And I told her we can't build churches because it draws sinners. I mean, that meeting got more views than any other meeting ever at planning and zoning for the city. But the reality is, what were we accomplishing? The guy owns the land, he isn't near anybody directly, but yet we want to control everything he does. I mean, you guys were just talking about a pavement variance, and why? He's got 5 acres. If he wants a dirt driveway, let him have a dirt driveway. Why do we have to get a variance for that? That's ridiculous. You know, if I want to build a pole barn and leave a dirt floor, city zoning says I have to do a 4-foot frost footing to build a pole barn. It has to be 16 on center studs, even though it's a tin building, and I have to do a concrete floor. Why? If I'm going to park a tractor in there, all I need is a pole barn with posts and tin and a door. So you change the price from city to county. If we start following what the city wants, a 30 by 30 pole barn is going to go from one you can buy at Menards for $13,000 to a $200,000 building. What in the hell are we thinking? Once you hit the city limits, that should be the line. I mean, most jurisdictions, the cops turn around at city limits for a reason, because they have no jurisdiction there. But as long as you have more than, I mean, we could take all your regulations and flush them down the toilet, and we would be better served saying if you have more than 5 acres, it's your right to do what you want on your land. But yet we don't do that. I mean, you guys just brought that American tree up, which is near us. He built a building that's in floodway, right? Is it floodplain?
That's not on that request. But
Well, somebody just mentioned it.
yeah, it's different property though.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's just a different property, I believe.
Yeah, but if he didn't borrow money to build the building, and the worst thing that's going to happen is the building he owns floods, what's the big deal? How much money have we wasted harassing him? A lot. You know, if you want to build an underwater house, build an underwater house. That's your problem. I can see if a bank is lending money on it, that there should be regulations. But if a bank isn't involved, what's it matter? Could anybody answer me how that affects the general public?
Mr. Chairman, he's looking for a response.
Yeah.
Well, there's a good reason why we have zoning ordinances, and I'm very lenient. I think if a guy wants to build a pole barn in the country with a dirt floor, I'm all in on that, things like that. But we have to be concerned about what you do on your property, how it affects the rest of the community. Hazardous materials, drainage, combustible things. You might block water and flood the neighbor. You might do all these things. So we have to have some oversight. And I'm very lenient, but I think we need to, there's a good reason why we have planning and zoning, and I'm with you 100%. It's gone over the top. We need to make some reductions in it, but there's reasons for a lot of it.
Well, where I live, it's floodway at the bottom, and what's humorous is there is no regulation, unless you guys hurry up and write one tonight, that says how many fish I can own. What's also humorous about this, you know, from all the planning and zoning, I can move the dirt on my property anywhere I want. So I can pick up dirt here and I can move it over here. As long as I don't add dirt. Because if it's a floodway or floodplain, you aren't supposed to add material because it'll affect your neighbor. So I'm going to dig a lake. I bought an earth mover. So now I'm going to have a fish farm. And what's funny is you don't need a permit. I checked Fish and Game, I checked Water District, I checked everybody. Unless I pump water out of the river, Apple Creek, then I have to pay for, well, no, it's a free permit, but I have to apply for a free permit to pump water into the hole that's going to fill up anyway because it does rain here once in a while. So when you look at it, then you should have a regulation that says you can move dirt on your property, but don't add any. Because at that point, you're not affecting your neighbors. But to say people can't build in floodway or floodplain is ridiculous. Because they can build it up without affecting their neighbor. But we never think outside the box. You know, a prime example is today I called, and you guys are going to find this humorous because they're way higher in government than you guys are. I called Kramer's, every office Kramer has, with a veteran question. I wanted to know why the VA doesn't cover the Part B for Medicare so vets can go directly to any hospital in the country, rather than a VA hospital, which usually has delays, timeouts, or disapprovals, and it's $160 a month for Part B. So I called every office Kramer has, answering machine every time. I called every office Hovind has, answering machine. Williston, Minot, Fargo, Grand Forks, Washington, D.C. But I have to say, Fedorchak, her office answered the phone immediately. So I lodged that question. But when you look at it, out of 20 offices, our representatives here don't have anyone to answer the phone.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're off
Yeah.
subject here.
But I'm just saying, when we're talking about how things
we're gonna
get
end this.
where we are, the people that are supposed to represent us don't represent us. You can't get a hold of them. You
I
can
think-
send them a Facebook message.
I think we need to move on to so somebody else can speak too, so maybe you need to close your remarks and we'll move on.
Well, I think we should boycott any plan to bring anything from the city, and I don't believe you can take and do a zoning ordinance that applies to only a small strip of Burley County without you guys all getting sued. Because if it doesn't apply to somebody in Wing or out by Sterling, it shouldn't apply to me in the ETA.
All right.
So I think you need to say it's all of Burley County or none of Burley County. You can't draw a line and say, well, you guys used to get screwed by the city, so now we're going to continue it. Or just leave us in the city.
All right, let's move on. Let me ask a question before you speak. How many people intend to speak tonight? Raise your hand so I know. Okay, so we won't do a time limit at this point.
Good evening, Commission. I'm here to also speak on the ET ordinances, and I just want to lead off with, I appreciate the work that's been done up to this point. I see a lot of faces sitting here tonight that have put in a lot of work, cooperation to get us where we are. You guys heard the residents. We asked to be separated from the city, and one of our biggest asks was that we wanted representation. But now I'm hearing from representation that we just want to adopt a new set of rules. You know, a lot of us moved out in the country because we wanted to live out in the country. But we also wanted the amenities of city. That's why I moved out there. I went and got chickens. I didn't know if I could have chickens or if I couldn't have chickens. I just knew I wanted chickens, so I went and got them. You know, you guys are making Bismarck, Burley County be a place where we got to ask for permission for everything. And I posed this question when I spoke on the original ETA topic. How much money do you guys have to do lawsuits, to pay staff to go out and check places? Because at some point, people are going to say we are tired of regulation and we are going to start building. We are going to start doing. Burley County specifically, you guys have a very small staff. Mitch sounds like he is already overwhelmed and has a full docket. Is he going to be able to drive around and double check and check when neighbors snitch on neighbors and people file complaints? How about our Burley County State's Attorney? Brian, I'm going to keep talking.
Commissioner Bittner has a
Do
question.
you guys have,
on.
I mean, you guys say
Hang on
that
a second.
Julie's already backlogged.
Hang on a second. I gotta clarify something for you. You were under these ordinances. We're talking about removing them. I think the attitude of this commission is removing ordinances. I think you're on the wrong path.
But that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you
Well, I
guys
know
want
that.
to transfer and you want to make special ordinances for the ETA group.
No,
we're tired
I'm-
of being special.
You're misunderstanding. I can't account for what you think you've been hearing from your Facebook things or anything else. These are ordinances that you were already under, and we are talking about
Removing them.
removing or reducing them. So I don't appreciate being accused of trying to put regulations on somebody, because quite frankly, I'm neighbors with Bob and we agree. You know?
But you're still talking about regulations.
Well, yeah, we're talking about the regulations that you've
Because
been
Brian,
under.
you know as well as I do, we have different regulations in Burley County for chickens as the ETA people have in Bismarck.
I know that.
So what
and
do you
that's
do-
what we're
so
talking.
what do you
That's
do
what we're
with the-
talking about. But you're saying that we're trying to put ordinances on you, and that's so far from the truth that I just can't
Well,
let
you're-
that go without addressing it.
You're bringing ordinances, you
No,
are
these
kind of
are-
changing ordinances.
These are on you.
You and I had a conversation about shop size, Brian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we're talking. The conversations that we've been having is increasing shop sizes. We don't disagree
But I
here.
think, that's a
We-
lot of transparency there. We need to have a lot of conversations that are being transparent like that.
Well,
so
I think
people-
that this
so
is
people
where
underst-
we have those conversations.
So people
and that's
understand
what our
it.
goal is.
I haven't heard a whole lot of conversation about it. Mitch himself said he put a lot on the table last meeting. For you guys to not be able to digest it when you have a packet in front of you, how do you expect the average citizen to digest that?
Well, it's not
I mean,
really,
you're-
it's not
you're the
really your
representation.
job.
You
It's
do
our
this-
job as
yeah.
representatives of you to understand that.
But
and
if we
that's why
don't get
we're doing
involved at
this.
some point, then we come back and we're behind the ball. You know how that works also.
Well, yeah, well, I want you to know I appreciate you being here. The thing I had an issue with is you're trying to make it sound like this board is trying to put zoning ordinance
Well, I
on
think it
you.
raises
This
the que-
board is trying to
I think it
remove
raises the question, how are we gonna enforce this much? I mean, would you say, Mitch, 12,000 plus more people? I mean, do we have the staffing to even enforce that?
We're
Yes,
we're
we
not
do.
going to, we're not going to have as many ordinances or regulations as currently are there. We're trying to remove them.
Yeah,
And,
I don't-
and enforcement then won't be as big of a problem as you think it is.
And I'm just saying, like, I live up in the Misty Waters area, and under city control, we've seen things that weren't being enforced, and then they go on for 3 years, and we fight it, and then the city commission just finally says, well, we're gonna change the rules to make people go away. I mean, John, you know how that went. I mean, I don't wanna see us get into that situation where we're fighting. We're on a good track. We're setting a state precedence. Hopefully, we'll see out of what's happening right now, we're gonna see some state reform with ETA that's gonna ultimately benefit the citizen. So I guess between the conversation here, I think there needs to be some clarification and some more transparency, because when we look at a packet and there's really nothing there, it's difficult to decipher.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I think you wanted to add something.
Let me add some clarification to it. As far as us commissioners at a table, based on open meeting law, we can't talk to each other a lot behind closed doors. That's meetings behind meetings. That's the reason why the representative process is there in Robert's rules. So right, what we have before us, and I appreciate Mitch having the side-by-side, the accessory building area, we changed that to 4% of the city for one clarification. But this is what's here now. All of this is up for discussion. And it can be changed, things can be taken out. There's some things to consider too, like the FEMA flood designations, because that impacts people's insurance rates, and we got to keep that in mind, and Mitch will come up and explain some of those things. But to have all of us here so we can engage in conversation with you is so that this is the meeting for that discussion. It's not, because if we do it behind closed doors and bring it to you, that's a open meeting law violation. So just that point of clarification.
Okay,
Good point.
thank you. Okay, next.
Okay, I think I have the right time now. Sorry. So I'm here to just give input. I know some of you were at the other commission meetings where I did give some input, but some of you are not. They're new faces to me. So I think what I want you to know is just our experience, because maybe that can help guide your process, because I think we have a unique experience, maybe, possibly. I kind of looked at the ETAs and how long it's been around, and in North Dakota, my research says since 1929, which was really shocking to me, but that's how long ETAs have been in existence. So given this history, I think it's worth asking why we've reached such a critical juncture where landowners are no longer willing to tolerate an ETA. And I think that Mr. Field and, Mr. Jensen have, probably given some input into some of that. Our perspective is my husband and I began remodeling homes in 1987. We were just 2 years out of high school. And we never hired a contractor. We built homes with our own two hands in 92. And in 2004, we built one in Burleigh County. And again, this past year, we did build an accessible home. My husband's now in a wheelchair, so we can't build it with our own two hands, but we hired subcontractors. And the process for that is what I'm here to talk about, because the process since 1987, of course, it's nothing like it was. I mean, I kind of agree with Mr. Field in that, we're talking about residential, single-family homes, whatever the designation is. That's been going on for forever. And since 1929, apparently homes have been built in the ETA. And in my experience, in 2004, things are much different since 2004 and light years from 92. So again, I don't know why that is. I'm not sure, but it feels like an overregulation of private property. It's gone too far. And that's my opinion. And that's why the ETA, I think, has been challenged. That's why we have people that are upset. While I respect government fulfilling its duties, there has been interference through overreach, such as stopping private property development with questionable justifications that are not rooted in statute, from my understanding. And that needs to be addressed. That needs to be stopped. I previously offered this example, so this is just a quick soundbite on it, that we were told, we own property both, my husband and I own a piece of property and my family owns a property. Our personal property is is out of the ETA, the family property is still under the ETA. So, it's confusing to me why we've gotten to this point, why things are so different from the last time we built, which, was basically 20 years ago. And we were told basically for the family property that's still under the ETA that we couldn't put storage units on it because there wasn't a fire department to respond to it. Now, I wasn't at that meeting, another family member was, and when they came back to me, I said, well, what exactly do we have rural fire services for then? But you see, it's the bureaucracy that's making decisions behind the scenes that I could tell from one meeting that a commissioner didn't even know this kind of stuff was going on behind the scenes. And then some of them do, because I have heard privately that they know it goes on, because whatever committee you have that all goes together, where there's only 2 county representatives and the rest are city, they know that that's going on. I'm not the only, I didn't even know that other people had heard the fire department excuse until I came to one of these commission meetings and a commissioner brought it up because he'd had somebody complain. I didn't complain to him. So that is going on. And so when we built last year, the process was delayed. I started that, I think, the late fall of 23, early 24. And by the time we navigated the bureaucracy, by September, we still hadn't had approval on our permit process. In spite of that, we began to put the fill dirt in because otherwise we knew we were going to be set back another year. So the convoluted system demonstrates that there's simply too much bureaucracy. Single residential homes, like I said, they've been built forever. And I'll just talk about one of the county regs that came up because they were the last to sign off. See, we split our property into, we had 3 acres and we split it. And so that we could build another home because we were in the floodplain and it didn't matter. We wanted to stay. We were out by the pumpkin patch. So on our original property, we have an accessory building, a shop at the back of our yard. And we're obviously are in the riverbed area, so you need gravel then to access accessory buildings. So we had gravel taking where we could get to the back of the lot. However, when it came time for the county engineer to sign off on the permit, concerns were raised about the road we had on the section line of our property. This was just the most level area at the end of our driveway used for parking and accessing a shop without driving through mud. But it was defined as a road on the section line. So despite the cost and usefulness of this area for extra parking, we complied and moved the gravel to the new building immediate adjacent to our existing home. We moved it to the new lot. And then we were told to plant grass, which of course we would have done anyways. Next, we were instructed to reslope the property towards the ditch. And finally, that we had to move the gravel that we'd piled up because we piled it on the section line on the new driveway because it was at the end of everything where the building was going on. The requirement to slope the lot, which had never been sloped before, was the last straw. And additionally, the ditch in question is not even up to code, but that was deemed irrelevant. So, I'm just going to be honest, as having built multiple homes, I kind of wondered, never had this kind of oversight before ever. Were we being singled out because we didn't have a contractor? I don't know. But we, at that point, my husband had a discussion and said we aren't going to comply. And as has been discussed here, we'll get an attorney because it was just getting over too much. So in our experience, the current process and the level of oversight have far exceeded what we believe is constitutionally appropriate for property owned by individuals. We need to return to essential safety oversight enforced equally across all parties. So it shouldn't be different for a contractor. I can tell you I was held to codes that a contractor built a house right across my street, not held to any codes. So if you're going to be zoning and planning, you better be holding everybody accountable the same. There shouldn't be any, they're a contractor, so we just assume that they'll hire it. Well, you should be checking them just like you're driving out to my property. 3 times, I think, the county engineer had time to drive out to my property. So that's why I'm here. I wanted to raise awareness about how these offices are operating and to urge the elimination of any ordinance not required by whatever funding you need. The city of Bismarck just passed, this, I don't know. I didn't even stay on top of what they passed around if you own a private business and you can't park a vehicle anywhere. Well, in the ETA, that's county land. And now you can't even park your, if I understand it correctly, your business vehicle on it. It's ridiculous. So I would just say that for those, I think the thing that got confusing for me was Mitch saying we needed to adopt the city ordinances at the last meeting, or however he said it. So at that point, I thought we were still saying under the same guidelines as before. So I'm relieved to know that you don't want to do that. But I do think you need to know there's still a lot of oversight, even that goes on at the county level, that I'm asking for you to take a look at in zoning and get back to essential.
You understand that our goal is to reduce the
Yeah, I do now,
regulations.
but that wasn't
Okay.
clear, from
All
the
right.
televised meeting, so yes. And I'm just telling you, you have to go beyond that, in my opinion, because you have to look at what the staff that are hired to carry this out are doing under supposedly your guidance.
Commissioner Bittler.
Help me understand where your property is at.
It's on Fernwood Drive by the pumpkin patch. So it's an acre. We had originally almost 3 acres.
Was that under the county jurisdiction?
It is in the ETA now.
So
I do not believe it was
how
in
is it that you're
2004?
having problems, but you're blaming the county because you're under the city?
Well, it was the county we had to jump through hoops at both the city and the county. Both had to sign off on our build, which was so confusing to us because that's not how it was in 2004. So we assumed something had obviously changed. We had to go through multiple committees. I don't even know. They wrote us a letter.
Okay.
It's so convoluted.
Yeah, I
Jenny
understand,
wrote us
except
a
that-
letter.
Except that, the county, from what I'm getting from what you're saying, the county would have had an issue because of a section line. The county doesn't care what you do with your driveway. I
I'm
can't
just saying
believe
it
anybody
wasn't a
that,
road
I
on a
don't believe
section line.
anybody.
It was gravel
Okay,
we threw down.
Dan,
You know.
you got any insight on, you heard the same thing I did, what,
Yeah, without knowing the exact location, Commissioner Bittner, we'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
I know there was several people that developed down in that area or platted, and that would have went through the city process. And it would have been reviewed by Casey from our staff.
Okay.
And there may have been some recommendations or requirements via that process.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add, Casey?
Okay.
So without knowing exactly where your driveway or property's at, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because it sounds like that's not consistent with what my understanding of how the county highway department works. We haven't had that kind of an issue. Go ahead, Casey.
Yep, if I remember right, I think this is Fernwood Drive and Sandy River Drive on the northwest corner, just roughly saying. So when they came in and they wanted a building portion, one of their driveways went through a non-access line.
Oh.
So it was okay, we have to get that corrected. They also had a private drive that was gravel in their lot that went across multiple lots, and it was, okay, we have to clean it up somehow. We're pretty open to how you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you want to build that new lot to the north, there was an existing structure on it. And if you, I think it was an accessory building. And if you want to put a new home there, that's fine. But we then have to have that separate, and you have to have a separate approach permit, and you have to be able to work through that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, once you do all of that, you have to have the approach onto Fernwood Drive. You can't, it's not accessing through lots unless you want to put access easements. And if you don't want to do access easements, then you have to remove it and get all that set up and be able to go through there. And going through the process, they contacted, the ditch isn't ADA, and I agree, no ditches are ADA. I agree with you on that. And it's 2 foot deep. That's what subdivision road standards are for 2 foot. Going through there, I know, trying to explain all those codes and processes, it is long. It's a lot to learn, and trying to help explain that can be frustrating on a good day going through there. But that was, if I'm remembering right, that's what was a lot of the areas, and we're just trying to help them get through that to address the different areas up there.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yep.
Casey, appreciate it.
It wasn't an issue of putting in the approaches. We understood that. The issue is gravel sitting at the end of my current driveway that just went back to the accessory shop. Obviously, we wouldn't have been using that road anymore, gravel that's put down. But like I said, it just, at the end where we're being told you have to, move your gravel from the pile you have, come on, it's gone beyond.
Any
it's right, it
questions
was
from the-
Casey.
Well, I'm not going to,
Any further questions from the commission?
Thank you.
realistically,
yeah, please.
I know the instructions that we have to our staff is to be as helpful as absolutely possible. So I don't understand how that could have even happened.
Vice Chair, I just have a question for the lady that just stepped away.
What do you think?
He has a question.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Commissioner Geiger.
Yeah, I know I didn't catch your name, but is your suggestion to basically just adopt the county ordinances for everything that is in the county, or that's going to move from the ETA to the county? Is that your suggestion?
My suggestion would be that you review the processes and procedures that are getting carried out by staff at both the city and the county, but of course, this is just the county. And then the other thing would be that it's as least government intrusive as possible. Like government, why is government even involved in making a decision about what size a building, accessory building you put on at all? I agree with Mr. Field on that. Like, how did we get to this point? It's not a good place to be in America. It's just not. There should be limited government intrusion into what we can do with our private property. Mr. Field, he carries out some really great examples, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that agree with what he has to say and believes the overreach has just gone beyond. It's just gone beyond. And part of that, I'm sure, is all the federal money that gets tied to this.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Conley?
I just have one clarification. When you mentioned home occupation, that was a long conversation. So when you talked about like a commercial vehicle in a lot and things, that was part of the old. We're actually, because of this, and there's people in the audience here that were part of that, and we spoke a lot on it. The city ordinance is a lot more lenient than what the county is currently. So the stipulation you have is not consistent with what's there currently. Just as a clarification
You know
point.
what? And that's very well true because I don't think most of us even know what's gotten passed in all these years. I had no idea that the building process had changed. And again, we built that house in 2004 with our own hands. We did everything. We had no contractor, nothing, not even a subcontractor. So, I mean, I think we did have one subcontractor, but that, it's just changed. It's over-regulated. It's like the hoops you have to jump through. I don't know if it's because I was in the ETA. I don't know why. I mean, and forgive me if I got the staff confused on who was where, but, I mean, Casey is the one that dealt with the gravel issue. So, after you said his name, it clicked for me. So, and I'm not saying that they weren't helpful at other stages. I'm just saying the over-regulation, like going through multiple committees, this and that, it shouldn't take 9 months to get approval on a permit build. That's never how it used to be, never.
Any other questions? Any other questions? None? All right. Anybody else want to speak? Be sure to state your name and sign in on the register there.
My name is Jan Wengler. I'm an Apple Creek Township resident, and I live across the street from the actual city-county line. I'm on 52nd Street. So one side of the road is the city and one side is the county. I was delighted that our subdivision was pulled out of the ETA because it is an area where people already have chickens, people already have large buildings, people have lots that are likely not going to be subdivided in a way that would fit with the city. It made no sense for us to be in city zoning. The things that we are able to do now, we should continue to be able to do. So I'm delighted that you're trying to put county zoning into what was the ETA for the residents that were pulled out. But my question would be, are there multiple dividing lines, or is there a new ETA now that some of these residents have been put back into county zoning? And what happens to them? And is the ETA actually for planning city growth? And if city growth isn't going that direction, is there a need for that much regulation? A lot of these people that have been coming up have been saying, I'd like to be able to do X, Y, or Z with my property, but they're not being able to do so because somebody has their thumb there saying, no, we have a regulation, no, you have to have a permit. Permit means permission. So I need permission to do things on the property that I own, and that seems backwards to me. It's like you don't work and put the time in to a property and invest in it for somebody else to tell you what to do with it. So if there is a way to keep the regulations, and it sounds like I may have misunderstood partially what the intent of this public hearing was, because I understood that it was to put zoning into place for the people that were in the ETA, like you were going to give us some kind of special restrictions. And I understand now that that's not the case. However, that doesn't mean that I am in favor of the county now coming and saying, well, you're in that former ETA, so you don't exactly get to be the same zoning as the county. You have these additional things you have to do. So that's my fear. So that's why I'm speaking up and letting my thoughts be known.
I don't think that's going to happen, but Commissioner Bittner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, that's the whole reason we're here. It was like he had said, we don't have these conversations offline. You know, our conversations are here in front of the public, and I'm not aware of anybody that wants to add any additional stuff. The goal really is to do the opposite, you know. the county zoning ordinances, and you may be surprised to learn that in some cases, the county zoning ordinances are more
Stricter.
restrictive than the
Yes.
city. You know, that's not a necessarily a rock-free road either.
True.
And so, you know, we have to look at that and see what do we need to change, and that's all part of a change. But the goal was never to add something that didn't exist. Because, you know, part of the reason with considering what already exists is if we take that away, does that harm anybody like you or Travis or Bob or anybody, or me, you know, because I live out there too. So the goal was not to make it worse. But in some cases, county ordinances are tighter than what you are currently under. So we didn't want to go there either.
Right.
So we're still working on that, you know. We're still early in the
Well,
process.
it's a little bit closer to what I thought should happen, because being under the thumb of the city, we couldn't vote on anything in the city, but we were being regulated by them. So that taxation without representation thing actually came into play, and to have some of that removed is actually, you know,
Right.
it makes us breathe a
Right.
little bit easier.
Well, you know, I've been on the front line of that since, you know, 18, almost 20 years now. So we're going to continue.
Yeah, and if I can help with that, since it comes up, it helps with the education, so we can catch it along the way, and that, but 95% of the established dwellings are going back to county jurisdiction, I mean, and then 5% are staying in. An example is some of the ones that are staying in are around the airport. Everybody knows about the airline accident in Tennessee. So there's some FAA things, so it kind of makes sense that properties, there's some hoops to jump through there. So I've already drafted language, and I've been talking to legislators, to where now you can actually vote for the people that regulate you. But then for the 5%, we have to address it at a state level, to allow a local jurisdiction to make the choice at, say, city commission level, to redraw the line to allow those 5% to vote for the people that regulate them. Now, it's a roll of the dice, and knowing what the state will do, but that's where keeping on top of the education, showing up to these meetings and things, let's make a swing. Fargo can be Fargo. If they want to stay exactly the same as they were since 1977, they can do that. Let Bismarck be Bismarck, let Burley County be Burley County, so we can do right by our citizens. And go from there, if that makes sense.
It does, but I would say that there is a level of trust that we need to have maybe in all of you that has sometimes been misguided, because the ETA has changed. When I sat on the city planning and zoning, it was voted, I did not vote for it, but it was voted to go to 4 miles. And then it came back to 2, I understand. But it's like if they have the chance to grab something that's bigger and larger and more control, it seems to happen. So I'm just saying that that's taken place in the past, so we always have to be aware and we have to show up.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner,
I need to point out, though, that once the city went to the 4 mile, that actually still exists. The reason that everything that has happened to back it off and whatnot has been based on a, we call it joint. Negotiated
Joint
boundaries.
powers
So, you know, if we goof this up and it gets out of control and the city feels that the county is not operating properly, they might just up and say one day, we're going to go right back to 4, because they can. Now, I don't want that to happen. I want us to have peace in the valley, right? But that 4 mile, my point is that it exists regardless of what we do here.
Right.
Okay.
Commissioner Risch?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that, and I'm a city commissioner, the city of Bismarck, by statute, is allowed to go up to 4 miles. But we voluntarily went back to 2 miles and then relinquished 95% of all the homes in the ETA and 49% of all the land. We only hung on to the stuff that it was pretty obvious that the city was going to expand in that area in the future. And we wanted to be developed in such a way that it would fit with the city. We were sincere in our negotiations with the county and gave up a lot of the territory that we were once under our control, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe the lady at the podium, if her property is on the east side of 52nd Street, is in Apple Creek jurisdiction.
Yes.
So Burley County would not be in charge of your zoning. Apple Creek is.
When the new ETA maps came out, it said that our subdivision was taken out of the ETA. That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's that, yeah, that is correct.
So that the properties in Burley County that were taken out of the ETA of the city, are you saying that I am not in county jurisdiction?
If you're on the
No,
east side of
No.
at 52nd
I don't
Street.
think that's what the agreement was. The agreement was to shift the jurisdiction from the city to the county.
That was
That
my
didn't have-
understanding.
That didn't have anything in my mind to do with giving jurisdiction to a township. Dan, did you have something to say about that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the way that the Highway Department understands that is, since the boundary for the ETA was pulled back and Apple Creek's kind of, it would expand back to where the ETA was relinquished, is that not
No.
the case?
No, that was never the intent.
I'm probably wrong on that then.
Yeah.
Once everything's out of the ETA, it goes to the county, then we go back to the county rules, and Apple Creek Township retains zoning authority in the area, but plating authority is still Burley County's, then it still runs through all those parts. And that, I'm not saying it can't be changed in the future, that's just kind of how it reverts for the time being.
No, it doesn't. That's not my understanding. The agreement was between the city and the county. You had the city's jurisdiction. That city's jurisdiction was going to the county. This is a big deal
Yep.
to me because I have
Yep.
a fair amount of land in the ETA.
Yep.
And I am not, my land is never intended on any of those maps and in any of the conversations to be under township zoning. I can guarantee you Jan Wengler doesn't want to be under township zoning either.
Yep, and I can.
So that's not, that was never
fine.
the intent, and I don't know how you came to that interpretation, but the documentation I've seen, and I think what I signed, was that was transferring city jurisdiction to the county on those things that were under city jurisdiction. Now, there is parts that was under the township that the city had negotiated with Apple Creek Township. None of that changed, you know. But none of the city's jurisdiction was transferring to any township.
Yeah, and we can read through that. That's no
Okay,
problem.
we'll have another
Yeah.
conversation about
Yeah, you
that, but
bet.
that was never the intent
No, I
in
get
any
what
of
you're
the
saying.
conversations, unless you commissioners had any other ideas, but that was never the intent.
Yep, and that's why the agreement's written out,
Okay.
so we can reread it. That's no
Okay,
problem.
okay.
Well, I think, and I'll defer to Commissioner Conley as well, but I think when the city relinquished this back to the county, it was to the county. Whether or not the county decides to give that jurisdiction to the various townships, that would be up
Right.
to you.
That's my point there. You know, the goal was not to, well, for example, if I had a wild hair, and I have no intention of doing any development on my land, but if I wanted to take that land and develop it under the county or the city, whichever, either one, these specific rules apply that I've been part of for a long, long time. But under the township zoning, you could maybe only do 5-acre lots. And if I take 18 and a half acres and divide that into 5-acre lots versus acre and a half or something, well, who's going to do that? So that was part of the reasoning why we weren't considering that at all, because that's a major change, you know.
Okay, any other comments?
It's good that we asked the questions.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to speak? State your name and sign in, please.
My name is Wayne Martinezson, northeast of Bismarck here. I got this property up in Burnt Creek Township, and I've been trying to get that out of the ETA. I'm right at the end of the line there, and it's between 97th and 110th. And the way I understand this now, this new map, that's out of there now, right? That's the way it is?
Well, that'd be a Mitch question.
an address, Wayne? You have an address?
The address of the property?
Yeah.
It's between 97th and 110th in Apple Creek Township, section 27.
Apple Creek?
Yeah, Apple Creek Township. No, not Apple Creek, Burnt Creek.
Okay.
Burnt Creek. Sorry about that.
I know we're neighbors, but we're not that close.
You're lucky.
It's north of 110th?
Yeah,
No, it's south, right?
110th and 97th along the railroad track.
He's south of 110.
Yeah,
That is in the city of Bismarck.
Yeah.
I've been, just quite a few of these meetings already to try to get that removed, so.
The idea is they wanted
it
to keep the
is-
populated areas back to Burley County, and the undeveloped areas they wanted to keep.
Yeah, it's farmland, it's cropland.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be an issue for the city here, guys. I know.
So.
Well, if you have a physical address, you can go to the city website, punch it in, and they'll tell you whether or not you're in the ETA or not. Is there any
Okay,
structure?
well, it has
with
been
that?
in there, and I've been trying to, for the last, all summer, I've been trying to get that removed from there. So,
Wayne?
Yes.
You've met with the planning department in the city, or, right?
I haven't met with them yet, no,
You haven't met with the staffing?
no.
I'll send you the number and get exact wording, and that you and I've had a conversation, and that it's right along that 26th Street corridor and things. Raw land is, like Commissioner Risch mentioned, he said 49%. I think it's 47 and 53, 53 remaining in, 47 remaining out, but those, once people start throwing the numbers around, it gets a little convoluted. But get an exact statement from the planning department, and then follow up with either myself or, well, probably me, since you already talked with me, and let's have that discussion just outright. I thought you'd already talked to planning.
No, I was waiting for this meeting here.
Okay.
I didn't think I had to meet with them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I'm certainly aware of Wayne's concerns and the issues, and I've seen response from the city staff to him. And I think one of the biggest things is the city wanted to make sure that they were able to address essentially sewer lines, right? Is that what?
There's no sewer lines there.
I know there's none there now,
Future.
but it had, I think, from what I remember reading, the opinion of staff was that they needed to control his land so that they had some control for sewer and such.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And that seems to me something that the county can certainly take into consideration because it's as important to us as it is to the city. I'm the guy that worked with the rural water system to get them to take over the maintenance on the community sewer systems in the ranch subdivision and Misty Waters. And so what they do is they maintain that system as essentially like a municipal utility. And then that cost gets added to the bill, the water bill of the folks that are getting the service. So the rest of Burley County isn't paying for it. And so we have a track record of looking at actual improvements to the thing, because I think one of the city's initial concerns when they get to these rural developments is how to hook up city water and sewer. Well, on the ranch subdivision and those other subsequent ones now, the water and sewer comes out of the front of the house going out to the road just exactly like the city does. That never happened before. And that's part of what we instituted so that when the city gets there, that infrastructure is already in place. And I think that was one of the best things that we ever did from the county to assist the city's development in the future. And so the county, I believe, has a vested interest and an active interest in trying to make sure that water and sewer and all those things are looked at for the future. So I don't think that's the only reason that Mr. Martinez's land should be in the ETA versus out of the ETA.
ETA, that's more like eminent domain, and you know what I think of that. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
if I
you.
can, you know, for Wayne's benefit, when the county made the original motion to move forward with this ETA, his land was actually one of the items in the motion. And it is the one item that the city did not agree with. And I know Wayne it needs to continue the conversation with city planning and zoning. Because I know there's been additional conversations about his land, and Commissioner Bittner's correct. Their reasoning for keeping it within the ETA is exactly that. Sewer lines going north to the next group of developed properties.
That's quite a ways out for sewer lines.
Yeah, well, we want to work together.
Yep.
I mean, we got to get past this notion that one branch of government is the only one that can help the citizens. We represent the same people.
Yep.
I don't know how else to put it.
If I can follow up with what Commissioner Munson was saying is that there were 3 other properties that came forward, and I think I made that motion for those, and those were out. The difference with those were they were established residential properties, where yours is the raw land. So we can continue to further that conversation.
Yeah, let's do that.
This is the biggest moving of the needle in the good direction that we've had since 1977. So there's going to be more conversation to come. The all or nothing gets a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
We'll say it that way.
I'll be waiting to hear from you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too, Bittner. You too.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Approach the podium, please, and sign in and state your name.
I'm Lisa Appelt. Good evening. I live right beside Wayne at 2101 110th Avenue. So this is the first time I'm coming to this meeting, and I'm trying to understand everything that's going on. But it does seem like there's a lot of confusion amongst us as to what is going on, whether our land would be under the ETA or not under the ETA. So I'm just kind of coming here to say that we do not want to be under the ETA. We think that the county has, I mean, if that's what it is, I'm trying to understand. But I think the county has the knowledge and to keep us in line, with what we can do and what we can't do. But from what a lot of the people are saying, we moved out there to have our own piece of land. So we don't want to be controlled unreasonably. Just, kind of echoing what everybody has said. It shouldn't take months and months to get permission to do something with your own property that you purchased. And what else is coming in the future, I mean, we don't want any more control than what is necessary to keep things, in line with our neighbors and such. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, Commissioner Munson.
Thank you. Thanks, good point. First off, I think if you live next to Wayne, you're probably not in the ETA, and so you're no danger of having any issues,
Well,
are you?
we were having
That's
conversations.
correct.
Hold on.
I did just look her up, and she's in this gray shaded area.
That's
Right.
not neat.
It's not,
Mr. Chair, she's not in the E ETA.
Yeah, okay, so you're safe either way, okay.
I'm safe. Okay.
But I wanted to
But
address,
there's a lot of
because the other,
confusion.
the
There's a
other
lot of
lady mentioned something, and then you mentioned something about a couple of months to get a permit, and I don't know if you're speaking off of her input or something, but there
Yeah.
is no way that it takes 9 months to get a building permit in Burley County, right? 9 hours? Okay.
Yeah.
We established the Burley County Planning and Zoning and Building Inspections to improve that, because we had too much citizen concerns about the delays.
Right.
I mean, if you want to hear somebody complain about delays, you go up here and talk to Butler Cat and see how long it took them to get a building permit to add on to their building, right, Jim? I think it took them a couple of years.
Wow.
And so we are very strong on the guidance that we gave to staff to get it done. You know, we're here working for the citizens, and I don't know how to make it any more clear than that. So I don't know how she had the problem of a 9-month thing for a building permit working under the city, but that's over. We're beyond that. We're moving on to just a whole new thing here now. Okay. But thank you for your input. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, anybody else want to speak?
Mr.
Oh,
Chair, I do have a question for.
Go ahead.
For Commissioner Bittner and Lisa. If her land it is in the same shaded area as Martinez's land?
No, it's the 110 and 97th, is that what you're looking at?
Yep, and,
That's that's not where Wayne lives.
no, but he's not talking about, that's his land.
Well, she said she lives next to Wayne.
Yes, that's where she lives.
Next to his land. I'm sorry.
I misunderstood that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
a good
his-
clarification, because I
Yes.
misunderstood when she said she lives. That's why I looked at him when you said you live next to him, because I go, well, I know
Yes,
where he lives. and
right,
there's
yep.
There's
I'm
nobody
sorry.
real close there anyway, but, okay, that's
Okay.
all fine.
Yeah.
We're
All
good.
right.
It appears she is still she's in the ETA.
Because,
Her property did not get removed. Right next to them, that Northwoods, I'm sorry, right next to her property, that Northwoods is removed. But along with Wayne Martinez's land, hers is right there.
on the edge of something.
Yeah. She's
Okay,
just south of
can we work
110.
on that?
Mr.
Commissioners?
Chair.
Can we,
Ms.
You know-
Apple,
Yes.
is your address 2101 110th Avenue, or she is out of the ETA?
So this isn't a correct map?
It is out of the ETA.
Okay.
You missed the ETA by about 500 feet on the
okay, so
west
now,
side.
let's be very clear. So she is under county jurisdiction.
No,
Or never was?
that never was.
She's been under the county.
It's in the city.
Say again.
It's just, I mean, it's not in the transfer area of the ETA. Her property is not in that transfer area to Burley County's jurisdiction.
Oh, so she's still under the city.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to
see
try
my
to help
confusion?
you. Yeah, we're going to try to help you, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right,
We
next.
need to work on
Again, please sign in and state your name.
Show you.
Good evening. My name is Tyson Austin. At least one of you guys know who I am. I'm actually the one that Mr. Connell was talking about that dealt with the city on the ETA zone. I don't have as much dirt as Mr. Field back here does, but I do have about 200,000 square feet that I call mine. I'm really hoping, and obviously by coming out of the ETA, I'm glad to hear that you guys are not going to try to impose more rules on us. That's awesome. I am really hoping, though, that all of the fighting that I did with the city and the ETA about being able to have my trailers and my trucks and stuff come to my house doesn't go out the window now. I know that Burley County does have more strict rules about that unless you're agricultural. If you're a farmer, you can basically have whatever the heck you want. I own a landscaping company. I lease a shop in town, and that's always been my complaint. I'm not taking my stuff to my shop in town so it can get stolen. I'm just not going to do that. So every night I bring my trucks and my enclosed trailers to my house. And I just don't want that to have to end, And again, I've got almost 5 acres. It's out of the way. It's not in, it's in sight if you come down my road. But where I live, if you come down my road, you're my neighbor, and my neighbors don't care. And I just want to make sure that that's not something that's going to be changing.
Questions?
No comments?
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair? Unless we adopt some ordinance to allow, that's not allowable in our current Burley County zoning. What we do what we allow for home occupancy, occupation is no external employees and no more than 25% of the primary home can be used, no on-site sales, no employees. The city allows 3 external employees, 50% of the primary home, and 100% of an accessory building. So sales allowed and less traffic problems. So we are night and day difference between them. So.
And the city also allows up to 10,000 square feet of your lot to be used for storage of trucks, trailers, equipment, whatnot.
And I'll add context to that, and Tyson could back it up. A lot of the city-elect, as well as staff, were not really amenable to this, but the turnout in the response from the citizens, how our representative process works, to where we literally have the most lenient ordinance in like a 5-state region that we know of when it comes to home occupation. A lot of other jurisdictions, because they are more stringent, are uncomfortable with that. So that's probably going to be a rub within this discussion to how you can make it appropriate. Because what we were finding out is that, and Commissioner Bittner, you'd mentioned it a lot, the $700 fee that went with, because that was part of your discussion, is they were doing that for the people that actually came trying to do things right and talk to the jurisdiction. Well, we were averaging $2,100 a year in collections. There's literally hundreds of occupations out there. So I got up during a public comment at the city planning and zoning, and I said, why don't we just put our name on the first right of refusal if somebody's doing a business wrong and not worry about that fee? And that way they can transfer less cost to the customer, because a lot of these are mom and pop single shops. And if they do something wrong, then go after and probably get more than the $2,100. We don't want people doing it the wrong way. Now, how it's addressed, that's up to the county now. We can't really say. I mean, since I'm on this seat, I have a little bit of say in explaining that history in one vote, but there's a lot of us.
Okay.
And
Is that fair?
Yes, and I was an integral part of this. Me and a couple of other people were the ones that went into the city meetings. I was part of one of the groups. I was a very, very big voice in this. I helped write the statute, and I would really hate to see all the work that I did go down the tube, because now I'm a county resident who should have more rights, and mine are actually going to shrink. And I'm not up here asking to run a full-scale landscaping company out of my house. I'm not asking for that. I just want to make sure that I can have my stuff on my property so it doesn't get stolen. I've got a nice yard. I'm not storing mountains of materials. I buy my materials from the suppliers in town. But under the way that things are written now, I'm not going to be able to do that. And I can tell you guys that everybody in the ETA, if we have to have this discussion again, I know all those guys, and we will be up in arms about this whole thing and having to do it again.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing at this point. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Bittner.
We're running right into a little bit of a wall, because on the one hand, everybody says, well, we don't want to adopt these ordinances.
Correct.
And now you're up here telling us we want to adopt these ordinances, or parts of them, or what do you, one part, right? So, you know, we're,
The building ordinances, let's be honest, that's ridiculous. And I'm not asking for you to adopt an ordinance so that we have less freedom. I'm asking you to adopt an ordinance so we have more freedom. I'm asking you just to continue doing what you're doing in a bigger manner for all of us. It's, you guys are up here talking about, we're trying to make this better for you and we're trying to make it, you know, less ordinance. That's great. Let's continue that. That's what I'm asking.
I think that that's probably part of a different discussion. The section that really relates to that, well, I think it might be in here.
It's definitely in here.
Yep.
I'm not in the wrong discussion.
Okay.
I've dealt with this before.
Yeah. Okay, it's a point well taken. I really appreciate it. You
All right.
know,
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
we're gonna close the public hearing at this point. No, oh,
You gotta do, there's more people.
okay. Yes.
Well, we usually have,
yeah. I'm not late for supper, but Jim here is missing his anniversary.
Yeah, my wife's on my phone right now texting me what's for dinner, so trust me, I don't want to be here.
Make sure you bring good stuff home.
You know, you guys can come if you want.
What are we having?
Whatever you want, I make everything. If not, if I don't have time, I'll just order it.
No.
No, Mitch was done, but
My name is Michael Knodel. I live at 3300 43rd Avenue Northeast. Some of you have heard me talk here before when this was an issue with the city. When I bought the place a few years back, quite a few years back now, I called the county before I even purchased the property, and it's 10 acres, so just about 500,000 square feet, I think. 10.5 to be exact, if you count some of the road ditch stuff. But basically, I said, hey, I plan on purchasing this property. I know the originator of the property was someone running a mason who ran the business out of there, and the person who bought it after there ran their business out of there, and I thought it was perfect for me and my son to start our life there with my wife. And that's kind of why we bought it. So is this going to be an issue if I run my business out of there? And they said no. The only thing you got to clear is with the city if you want to build anything. And I did that, and they said, you're good as far as we're concerned. I had no problems there. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know why I should have to worry about this if the whole intention of spending $1 million on a property and then another couple million to kind of build it back up and make it look pretty again is to be told, hey, sorry, you can't do that. We're going to put you out of business. And that's the whole reason I bought the property. So to keep it short, that's kind of where I'm at. I have all my stuff there so I can keep it safe. And I mean, I'm even not opposed to building a bigger shop to hide a lot of it if it's too ugly for some people. But my neighbors have all agreed with me with the last discussion that they have more ugly stuff on their property that they're even renting parts of it or storing some on mine for free. So I guess five local businesses ran out of their homes border my property. And then there's quite an extensive amount more if you expand into that. So I guess I know I'm speaking for a lot of them when I say that like any regulation on running your business in a rural state, I guess that seems nonsensical when we were already told that we were okay in the first place with no money or permit necessary at that time. If there is something, a better way, I'd be glad to hear it, but right now it just seems like we're just making a lot of backwards moves, and it's just going to be more frustrating and more fighting down the road. So that's all I really have to say. If there's any questions, I can answer.
okay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else before we close the meeting? I can see him back there.
Figured I'd at least come up and say goodnight to you guys. But, you know, this home occupation has to be one of the most ridiculous things I've heard. I grew up in northern Minnesota, and there's no such thing. Nobody tells you you can't run your business. I mean, every logger in northern Minnesota has their skidders, shears, trucks in their yard. Why do you guys think you need to regulate whether somebody can make a living working from their house? That's the smallest minded bunch of crap. And we fought this at the city. I disagreed with it there. How are you protecting the public from anything saying somebody can't park a bulldozer at their house? Is that bulldozer going to get up in the middle of the night and go push down the neighbor's house or something magical, or what's the purpose? I mean, there's no reason for these regulations. You guys should take your whole book of regulations, fire half of the zoning staff, and start over. You aren't protecting anybody. You're being tyrants. Chuck it and start over. That's
Thank
my
you.
opinion.
Any more comments? One more time, any more comments? Okay, now we will close the public hearing. Where do we go from here, commissioners?
Vice Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess from what I've heard tonight is that, just my suggestion is that, we've got the people that are moving from the ETA to the county are now under county jurisdiction. So to me, I would say what we have in front of us is basically the county ordinances with a bunch of things added to them from the city. I would propose that we fail that, get rid of that, allow these residents and landowners to operate under the county ordinances as is, and then address a couple of these points in our county ordinance that need to be addressed. The things like the lot sizes allowed, or total lot sizes, lot coverage maximums, the landscaping guy is concerned. I mean, it seems like there's just a few things we need to change in the county ordinance to make this fit. And then even after that, we always know that we have a variance process. So if there's things that then again don't fit, we can address them on a case by case through a variance process. So I guess that would be my suggestion, to say, these people are now in the county. Let's just use the county ordinance.
So you're suggesting that we drop the city ordinances and adopt the current suggested county ordinances, and then work at changes as necessary?
I would say fail what we have in front of us, vote that down, and then whoever used to be in the ETA, now that falls into the county, just follows the county ordinances. And then us as a commission and the county commission can work on some of these small nuances and change the county regulations, working with them to potentially get rid of some regulations, modify some regulations. But the pile of highlighted pieces in here that are the city regulations that we're trying to add is I would never vote for that, ever.
Commissioner Conley?
Yeah. Well, as far as the accessory building, because that was one of the joint portions, we actually, at our last city commission meeting, ours is basically mirroring yours. It says on your sheet here on page 26 that it's 1% for us. That's actually been moved to 4%. So, and it was meant to be the same as we try to help each other out. As far as the home occupation portion, like what the last two speakers were talking about, since special use permits, I've listened to all the Burley County meetings. That's a thing, even right like next door to you, your property be, and prior, a lot of things go to special use permits, so that we're not taking a step backward as we're trying to take a step forward. Is anybody living under those new provisions that their livelihood is not in jeopardy? Can they be grandfathered in based on that portion? And then the county stays the county ordinance like you've always had. And as you're growing into that new space, everything just goes to that special use permit until you figure out a better way.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Stragle?
I guess I would just like to go back to the comment that I made in the beginning, where we moved the transitional parcels under the current Burley County zoning ordinances and we grandfather in existing properties like Tyson Austin's, I forget the other, Michael Canodal, where we've grandfathered those properties in so that they are protected.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mitch mentioned that it would be very difficult if you grandfather in these, do you say 4,200 properties in perpetuity or whatever the case might be? That may be.
out of compliance properties, just the properties where there's a
I don't know. I'd appreciate Mitch's thoughts on that.
Mr. Chair,
That's,
we have to have some kind of documentation that that was approved in the first place. If it wasn't approved by the city of Bismarck, it was out of compliance of their zoning. So are we going to grandfather something that was out of compliance to begin with?
The city of Bismarck has a home occupation rule that specifically applies to the ETA. You can look it up and everybody in the ETA should be able to follow that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, there is. It's the 3%, the 3 employees. That's, yeah, it's already in there. They've adopted it last year, I believe. But if you're going to say grandfather all these properties in, you'd have to review almost each individual properties to see that it did at one time meet ordinances.
Okay.
Commissioner Bittner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think I agree with scrapping this whole concept and then addressing the things as that particular thing. It seems a lot cleaner to me to address the home occupation that exists under the city ordinances and compare it to the county at the time, you know, like another day. I don't think anybody is going to go out there and suddenly, if we just set this aside, nobody is going to go out there tomorrow and tell Tyson over there, you're done.
Right.
That's not going to happen. It's just not. And I think, well, I sat through those meetings because that was the city planning commission. And, you know, we got the message. I have run a business out of my property for 38 years and no problem. And so it's not like I have an issue with that. And I could certainly see us making changes to the county thing, and I guess the reason I never bothered to change the county ordinances is because I didn't have a problem. I was under the city, but we, you know what I'm saying, right? I think that we can just do away with a lot of the minutia and deal with the things that really do matter, like the home occupation. There was a lot of people in the room. You know, there's a lot of good conversation. Yeah, you know, that's just my opinion. I don't know how to put that in a motion, but.
Mr. Chair, if I can, and I understand Mitch's comment, and if you grandfather everybody, that's a little tougher. Where Commissioner Bittner makes a great point. We need to take these items one at a time, like home occupations, and get that moved into our ordinance so that those folks are covered, but we're not grandfathering in everybody. That grandfathering in everybody, you don't know what you're grandfathering. As Mitch said, you've got to inspect every one of those properties to find out if they were done legally. We know the home occupations were. The city's held the meetings, and that has been created, and I don't know how easy, Mitch, that would be just to move into our ordinance, take a meeting and a public hearing and so on and so forth. But I think that would be one of the first things we want to put on the docket to make sure that that's covered, because we have a lot of home occupations out there in the ETA.
Well, Mr. Chair, I thought I'd take some of the easy pickings here, some easy targets here by starting with the residential districts. And I used 2 columns to compare the 2 differences between Burley County and City of Bismarck former ordinances. Now, they are very similar, almost all of them, except when they get into the larger, the higher density properties like the R10, R15, and RR, R5. But the idea is that the differences are especially some of the accessory dwelling units and not accessory dwelling, but the accessory uses on their property, such as employees and child care centers.
Commissioner Bittner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mitch, I don't think that we as Burley County, outside the city limits, want to encourage RM15, RM30.
No, that's not my point. Yeah.
Or anything like that, because quite frankly, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the water and sewer, we don't have the fire control,
Yep.
And so it makes no sense to me to even consider adding that, because we don't have it now.
Right.
And we're not gonna have it because we don't have the infrastructure, so.
Yeah, understood. I highlighted each, well, I don't know if I highlighted your packets, but this is so very similar except for the higher density properties. That we can cherry pick what you want out of those accessory, different uses that are allowed on each of the properties and add them to our zoning. We'd keep it an RR1. Ours is basically R1 and R2 is all we have in the Burley County.
Commissioner Conley.
Yeah, since you mentioned the accessory dwelling units, we just went through that last year at this table as well, and that was a long process. The county was less stringent. The city was really, really trying to say, if you built a house, you could only build it to 20 feet, and then they gave examples. We should be like Maple Grove or this community, and 25 feet if you were going to add an alternative dwelling unit. And I just brought up the fact that why not allow people to build to the 25 feet so that it is equal with the county one. But if you already have that space in your house, if you're taking care of grandma or grandpa or mom and dad, it's easier to paint walls and have it existing than to take the top off of a house. And fortunately, the city commission agreed with me, and that was changed on a 5-0 vote. So some of that works there that does make, since you mentioned it specifically, that was on purpose to make it consistent with what the county had.
Mr. Bittner. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question for Mitch. So when you're talking about making some of these changes, are you talking about these changes just strictly being for the homes that were moved out of ETA and into county?
Well, if you're going to keep this Burley County zoning ordinance is simple, just keep the R1 and R2. Most likely, we'll never get into an R10 or an R15 density. But the idea is to take some of these accessory uses of what the city had and put them into an R1 and an R2. And that would be for the entire county. We don't allow, we have nothing on our ordinances on chickens. We have nothing on nothing even in definitions of a home care center or a family care or a child care, which is all allowed in this. In mobile home parks, they're allowed by right to have a child care center. They have up to 12 children in your home.
It's under the city.
Under the city. We don't even have a definition
I don't want to have mobile home parks out in the, there again, we get into the sewer
what I'm
thing.
saying is that we don't even have a definition for child care.
Right.
And so the idea is that, I can, on the next March meeting, I can bring just not the whole differences between the higher densities, but the accessible or accessory uses of these properties and see if we can adapt that into our R1 and R2. Such as the home occupancy of having 3 employees and chickens and all that stuff, and then family foster care. That's allowed in the city in an R1. And so I can bring that to the next meeting. We can go from there. And keep the zoning simple, keep it R1, R2.
Oh,
I want
Vice
to
Chair,
keep
just
it as
if
simple as possible. People don't, we're just tired of the minutia, and people want to live their lives and.
I don't want chickens regulated.
Well, Bob has chickens, and he lives right near me, so I don't care about the chickens because I can get eggs if I need them. I think that, I don't know how to put it into a motion, though, whether we even need one. If he's going to return based on what we've heard tonight, then we probably don't need to do anything. But I would like to see us just scrap the majority of this and focus on the things that the public obviously cared about based on comments.
Vice Chair, just if I could, a comment that just so everyone is clear, any HOAs and those types of things that exist, even if you were in the ETA and you moved to the county, your HOAs rules, regulations, those types of things are always going to be in addition to what we have. So if there are things that you don't want in your HOAs, make sure that you're writing those things in there, because if it's you can be more stringent than the county.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here?
Somebody want to make a motion?
So, Mr. Chair, can I ask a
Yes.
question? So, if we just left it alone and the people who have been moved into the county stay in the county, we know that the county staff doesn't usually go looking for trouble, so until something comes up, it can come back in front of the commission. That's what we're for. Where if somebody wants to build something that's a little bit different than what's allowed in the ordinances, then it comes in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we're an advisory board for Burley County Commission, so then we can take a look at it, we can listen to the people, that's what we're here for, and that's how we can settle out problems like that. I don't know if that makes sense.
What happens is if we do something like that, then it goes on for several months before someone is able to actually do their building. Because they have to come here, then they got to wait for the next commission meeting, get on the commission, and so forth. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a reasonable timeline. We heard from one of our people tonight that how long it took to get permits and stuff. So,
Mr. Vice Chair, I guess if we're kind of looking for a motion, we had a hearing, so we do have to take some action, and I guess I would move to deny the ordinance changes that are on the table presented to us.
I have no proposed changes to these ordinances tonight. My staff reports introduce the differences between our districts and the city of Bismarck and the county's district. There's no proposed changes.
Yeah.
This is part of that continuation of that first hearing. On the table right now are no changes proposed.
Yeah,
Mitch, at that first hearing, we had the packet that had all the highlighted items in it for change.
Right.
And that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
I think I know what you mean.
We didn't accept that.
I would second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion. Commissioner Risch.
To reject the proposal from the last meeting, but I think we rejected that at the last meeting.
No, we continued the public.
Oh, we continued it, okay.
Yeah. So,
Just for discussion, if the motion could be changed slightly, just so that the home occupation could have some security, is like we do on other motions and that, like decisions with conditions, is to keep the motion and then on the condition of the home occupation, give it a, 6 months or a 12-month time frame in order to work on it so that those businesses can work under what they're currently working under, if that makes sense. So there's something in writing, because our boards might change the structure between now and then.
Commissioner Conley, I think that's a good piece. I would just want to make sure that we're including everything that we want to have looked at. I mean, home occupation is one, but do you want to have it changed to
Yes.
all the? I mean, do we have a good list? I mean, I have about 4 things that I think have been brought up. Are there additional?
There are.
Pieces.
Commissioner Bittner.
That's a good question. Because in my mind, I think we need to do larger accessory buildings. The 4,000 square foot nowadays is simply not enough. And so that would be the second thing on the list. The home occupation and an accessory building size, I think, is an important thing. So if you want to add anything else to the list, if we're going to be modifying the motion, and if the original motioner is agreeable. So if you want to add, please do.
I think on top of that, it was lot, accessory building coverage, home occupation, and then there was accessory uses, or do we want to leave that out for now?
I'm not clear on what you're referring to. Because
we
that would
talked
be
about these-
home occupation is an accessory use, is that?
Is it the same thing? I don't know. That's kind of what I'm asking.
The alternative dwelling unit's the same.
Mr. Chair, he's talking about the home occupations of people doing their business out of their home,
Yeah,
whereas 3
Yeah.
employees and all that.
right.
There are 2 in the city, currently in the city, there's 2 categories, major and minor. Minor are allowed by right. Major are special use. So it goes in more depth than what we're talking about right here. The minor, I believe, is up to 3 employees and 50% of the area. And so I can bring to the next meeting a more defined allowances for these home occupations.
Yeah.
But it's not just that, it's whether or not we allow chickens on these properties. That may seem small, but if you're in a subdivision that has no chickens, like Country View Estates, I can pretty much guarantee you there's no chickens out there. Maybe there are, but I doubt it. So now we're saying you can have them.
No, I'm not willing to make those changes at this point, but.
Okay, so
with
the ones that
respect-
have chickens, they're gonna be grandfathered?
Or is that on the list to work on over the next 12 months?
That's probably in that category of accessory use.
Yeah, that could be the accessory use. Yep.
You know? Because I think now that I thought about it a minute, maybe the accessory use that he was referring to would be the granny flat or the.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
extra.
that's what Commissioner Connolly brought up.
Dwelling units. The
So-
accessory dwelling units.
There, here you go, yeah. So that would be like the third on the list. So you
Yeah.
got-
The other things that I see that are big differences are family childcare that are allowed by right on some residential in these districts, which is you can have 4 kids in your home, babysit, whatever. Then they also have child care allowed in some of this. By special use, we don't even have that in our ordinances. So, I can include that. I see that's a big change, a difference in Burley County, but it's in allowing people to do child care in their properties.
I don't see any harm in including that too.
No.
People, really, there's not enough daycare.
Yeah.
Nobody has enough daycare and it's too expensive, so I don't think we need to restrict daycare. But we're getting to the point where, that's a really long motion, right?
Right.
I
Which is
think
okay.
as the original motioner, I would just rather let's fail this clean, and then we can move on. And right after this, in additional business, then we can bring up another motion that involves all that.
That's okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, yes.
If, like Commissioner Agnew said, you can deny the changes that were presented at the last meeting and get that motion off the table, so all that's a clean slate. And then, as the Planning and Zoning Board, you can direct staff to work on those ordinances until we get it. And then, that's where our motion wouldn't be including all this. You would get rid of it and then direct the staff.
So the motion that we had the last meeting, do you have that motion?
The motion at the last meting was to continue.
To continue.
To continue, so we should be looking over what was at the last meeting too.
So we should
So
close that motion.
Yeah, if we close the public hearing like you did tonight, we need to make a motion on it. We have to have action.
Yeah.
So we could just
Yep.
deny those changes completely, and then it will take care of that. And then, as the Planning and Zoning Commission, you can direct staff to work on those changes. The 3, 4 different things they had, we can work on ordinances for that and
Call the question.
put it at
Okay.
a consent agenda.
Question's been called. All those, Marla, you want to go ahead and do a roll call vote?
Okay. The motion is to deny the amendments from the January 14th public hearing. Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jarrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Conley,
Yes.
Commissioner Bittner,
Yes.
Commissioner Patrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Rich,
Yes.
Commissioner Small,
Yes.
Commissioner Streifel,
Yes.
Commissioner Agnew.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
Okay, so now I think that by consensus, we would direct staff, this would be up to you, Mr. Chairman, but we'll direct staff to consider those things that we just discussed. I don't think we need to line them out anymore, right? And we all understand what,
And then come back at the next meeting and then with the changes to approve or disapprove.
okay, you need any further clarification?
Nope.
Okay.
So that brings us to the end of our agenda, I
So do we
believe.
need a motion for that?
No.
No, just consensus.
We direct.
It would be, the changes will be on the next consent agenda when they're
Correct.
ready for you to look at
Right.
before they go to a public hearing.
I just wanted to thank all the public that sat through that
Yeah.
and provided us input in the whole thing. I really appreciate it.
Is there any other business? I don't think there is, so a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We stand adjourned.